Dying. I'm dying. Time-smoothed stone pressed against Tavi Malin's back, the thick cotton of her clothing failing to shield her from the rock's cold touch. It leached the warmth out of her skin, leaving goose flesh behind. She lay across the seat of a stone bench, one foot on the ground. Her other leg leaned against the back of the bench, boot-clad foot in the air. Gravity had tugged the cuff of her pant leg all the way to her knee, and the cool wind tickled the exposed skin of her calf. One of her hands hung off the edge of the bench, and the other rested on the fabric of her shirt, over her heart. Thick, viscous fluid trickled from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were closed. An insect landed on her cheek, and she didn't flinch or bat it away. Her slack lips parted just enough to release a low moan. Footsteps approached. 2 pairs of Tavi's ears served her correctly. She moaned again, her wordless cry begging the pedestrians to notice her. The footsteps grew louder, then halted. From above Tavi, a man spoke. "She doesn't look like she's dying at all." Tavi moaned again, even louder. She gripped the fabric of her shirt, her fingers rigid as claws. Another voice, this one female. "Not even a bit. I've seen plenty of dying people, and not one of them has managed to pass into Senyet with a foot spearing the air. The blood on her mouth is too bright." The man sighed deeply, as if this fact, above all others, offended him. "Ah, well," the woman said, "what can we expect from an outsider?" The footsteps resumed, gradually quieting. Tavi huffed, swung her top leg down, and sat up, nearly tumbling off the bench before she regained her equilibrium. She grabbed a handkerchief from her pocket and wiped the thickened berry juice from her mouth. Looking at it, she had to agree with the man. It was far too red. "Judges came by already?" Tavi turned to her left to see Tullen approaching. She scowled. Yes, and they weren't very nice. He sat next to her and gave her a serious look. "I agree. I've always found them to be terribly judgmental judges." Tavi laughed and Tullen grinned. "It's your first year. Most of the entrants have been doing this since they started school," he said. "They're experts." "You really let 5-year-olds pretend they're dying?" "Meadow children start school at age 4. Tavi shook her head. "This is the strangest custom I've ever heard of. Why can't you use your autumn festival to celebrate magic, like the rest of Cormina?" "Because we are not like the rest of Cormina." Tavi recited the last phrase in unison with Tullen. Not like the rest of Cormina. This was a common response to her questions. And it was true. In fact, she doubted whether the meadow was like any other place in the world. Tullen's hand came up to her hair, and she turned her face toward it. But before she could rest her cheek on his warm palm, he pulled his hand back, a brown leaf pinched between his thumb and forefinger. "This must have blown into your hair when you were doing your dreadful imitation of a dying contortionist." He smashed the leaf in his fist and dropped the crumbling pieces on Tavi's lap. "Autumn is when plants die, to be reborn in spring." "True, but the meadow could celebrate the beautiful autumn leaves, or the apple harvest, or any number of other things besides death." "Well, yes, I suppose. But we only honor death as part of the cycle of life." Tullen stood. "Care to take a stroll? You can see the master death imitators in action. Or rather, not in action." In response, Tavi stood, and they began to walk,